We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the Dooms to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadromist. This is Burn Power coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia on a very pleasant day. We've had a few just wonderful days. Kind of day when I lived in Alaska, this would have been the height of summer in a very beautiful way. Even though you can tell the autumn is coming, leaves will occasionally surrender their place on the branch to jump off. Well, one thing I would like to do is to discuss the film Joker, Folie à Deux a little bit more. I have a complete spoiler-laden takedown of the movie on my Anadromist channel, and I'm going to put a link to that both at the end of this and down below, I think. But one of the things that came to me is I've seen a few people, I would say most of the people who really appreciated the first film, as I did. The one simply Joker, Todd Phillips directing, Joaquin Phoenix, etc. I think many of those people feel betrayed by the film. Now, every now and then I'll read a contrary view, which says, actually, this movie was acting like the Joker. It was subverting our expectations. Sometime I have to do a whole video on all this subversion stuff, because after a while, when subversion becomes the norm, being normal is subversive. But that's another issue. But here's the thing. That there are people who are saying, like, well, maybe this film is being a trickster like the Joker. And I did a fairly good response to this in one of the comments that I felt, let me expand on that for this video. Just a very quick video, me talking just a few ideas. And this will, in my mind, explain why the second Joker film was such a disappointment for people. I liked the first part, and then I felt it rolling off the rails. Many other people have a similar opinion. And some people are so upset about this film. If you just look up Joker, Folie à Deux, and you look up review, you're going to see a lot of haters. I always find this word haters to be bizarre. I don't hate the film. I just think it was a serious disappointment. But let me explain why it's a disappointment. It's not a disappointment simply because it's a bad film. It's a disappointment because the first movie brought us to a point, and then this movie takes it all back. And many people see the first film as a treatise on mental health, and that there's a character who suddenly kind of snaps live on television. And I won't go into any further that direction. I don't see it that way. I mean, yeah, mental health is in there, but I think it's a film about the title of the film, Joker. The Joker, from Batman. What is the Joker in Batman? What is Batman, for that matter, or Superman? They are what we would call stock characters. That is to say, Batman has certain elements that always need to be present as a stock character. So he needs to have the cape, obviously with the little bat ears, but more importantly, he needs to have a very tragic backstory where his parents are murdered. He needs to have kind of a psychological damage. He needs to have a vendetta against criminals. He needs to be very smart. He needs to have a lot of money. He needs to have a lot of gadgetry. He has a bat cave. And so Batman has these elements, and there's a few other elements. You can think about it for yourself. Same with Superman. Comes from another planet, ends up being adopted by his earthling parents, finds out he's invulnerable to almost everything, and can fly and use his eyes to burn lasers through people and such. These are Superman as a stock character. So no matter what comic book artist, no matter what novelist, no matter what movie or television show is made, if you're dealing with Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or any number of other characters, like James Bond is another one, he's a stock character. He always has to be James Bond. And if you make him not James Bond, you're defeating the purpose of having a character called James Bond. Well, here's the thing. Not only are the heroes like that, but the villains are like that. Especially the Batman villains. There are very few fictional creations that have a rogues gallery so symbolically resonant as Batman. The Riddler, the Penguin, all these others, Two-Face, Harley Quinn, all these others. But, having said that, the supreme symbolic opponent to Batman has always been the Joker. And in the Joker story, he's a crazy character. He's always laughing. He has no moral compass whatsoever. He is crazed. He will do the most diabolical acts, and he wants revenge. Heath Ledger's Joker is probably the pinnacle because he understood that the Joker was an anarchist, and he pushed him in a certain way that had never been pushed before, which is what makes that performance so legendary. Now, what's interesting is the Joker comes from a series of images of clowns. And the clown itself is a stock character. There are many breeds of clowns. Everything from the rodeo clown to the sad Pierrot clown. And they go back to the Commedia dell'arte and the mask traditions of Venice. And I deal with this in my Joker the Roots of the Joker video, and I put a new version of that again over on the Anadromist, links below. But here's the point. When you do the Joker, and the Joker also has another origin that's even more diabolical than simply the clown. People today think the clown is diabolical. Really, Joker is something else. He is Punch. Now, Punch comes from Pulcinella, who is a traditional Commedia dell'arte figure. He often has a humpback, he has a weird hat, but he's different in different countries. And when he got to England, he became Punch. Punch always kills his baby. Punch always kills the wife. And it's hysterical when he does this. It's funny because, of course, he is doing what you cannot do. He is transgressing. But he is always evil. There would be no point whatsoever to making a Punch story where he is redeemed, because that is not what he is, any more than the character of Stagger Lee that shows up in Black American folk music is a redeemable character. These are dark, demonic characters. They tell us something about the nature of humanity. Interestingly enough, you have Harley Quinn, who appears both in this Joker #2 and appeared earlier in the Suicide Squad, but she is based on another Commedia dell'arte figure, the Harlequin. And these characters have a certain resonance. They have a symbolic resonance. So here is the point. Joker, in Joker Folie Deux, starts off, Joaquin Phoenix does a great job of playing him, and Lady Gaga is pretty good until they stop giving her anything to do about, 45 minutes into the film. And the film was too long, but go check out my actual review. What they do is they take the character, and then in the end, he's no longer Joker. He's just this guy who is pretending to be Joker. And some people have said, well, that's like psychological resonance. It's the way it would be. And my thought is like, yeah, the way it would be if the character was not called Joker. Joker is a stock character. The Joker is, in fact, got no character arc. Although this film dared to suggest how he was born, in fact, he is a personification of evil. And I think what myself and many other people were interested in is seeing, essentially, how will this vision of evil manifest this time? We saw it in the other one. We saw a broken man who, with a condition that causes him to laugh all the time, finally snap and kill people. And then other people kind of build him up to be the symbol of anarchic rebellion. But in this film, he ends up, go watch my review if you really want to see how he ends up, but he ends up essentially as where he started in the first film and below that. That is to say, as a sad, mentally challenged person who has no agency hardly at all in his life. Which is not the Joker. The Joker in Batman has all the agency in the world.
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
Again, see the Heath Ledger performance. But again, see the end of the first Joaquin Phoenix version of Joker. So, what does that do? Well, we are set up. For instance, one of the things that occurred to me is, well, would you go see a Batman movie where, for the sake of subversion, we have Batman solve all of his psychological problems? And finally gets over it. He goes, yeah, I've been trying to be this character. It's no longer me. He solves his problems. And in the end, he spends the last 20 minutes of the film or so walking around without a mask. People are still having problems in the world that call for a Batman to solve, but Batman ignores them all because his problems have been solved. No, you wouldn't see that film. Why would you? It's not Batman. And that's the problem with the new Joker movie. It's not Joker. And we have a very interesting attachment to stock figures. When I go to France and I watch Guignol, and I watch the way children watch Guignol in France and the way they react to him, this little puppet about this big, from which we get the phrase grand Guignol, which means a very big puppet that hits people, puppet-like figure. We don't go there to see a character who acts like Albert Einstein or Joseph Stalin. We go there to watch Guignol, who is innocent and yet kind of explosive, and he's always getting himself in trouble, but he's a bit of a rascal. That's Guignol. He's a lot like Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is, in fact, a kind of an American variation on this Pulcinella character. But here's the point. When we use these characters, it is important that we use them as they are. Now, there can be people, and there have been people, who have made variations on the character. For instance, think about Norman Bates in Psycho. Norman Bates in Psycho is clearly psychotic, dresses in his mother's clothes, kills people, and in the end is put into a mental institution hearing his mother's voice in his head. So what happens? That was 1960, 1984, or 83, 84, they make Psycho 2, and everyone said, oh my goodness, why are they making Psycho 2? And for the first part of the movie, Norman Bates is not psychotic. But by the end of the movie, he is. And in fact, had he not become psychotic by the end of the movie, I am sure people would have hated that film, because Norman Bates has become an archetype, just as Joker is an archetype. And when you violate the archetype in order to do something else with him, maybe you want to make some other kind of point, well, you should use another character. You should not use a well-established character. Whenever we see Norman Bates, you're expecting certain things. And you might want to be all postmodern and deconstruct him and whatnot, but you're wrong. You cannot deconstruct one of these archetypes. They have spent years building into the archetype they are. For you to come along and casually pull them apart, well, you can do it. No one's going to stop you. Just as there was a movie called Brightburn, which took the Superman mythology and basically said, well, what if this Superman character came to Earth and crashed to Earth and then ended up being a child who was malevolent? Well, I'll bet you haven't seen the movie Brightburn. Very few people have seen the movie Brightburn. Why? Because no one wants to see the Superman myth turned inside out like that. And that is what happened here. And I go into the reasons why I feel like this film did that and why it was a big mistake. It's a mistake because if you're going to use the archetypes and the stock characters, you need to respect them. It's part of the story. They come with a legend. They come with a set of tropes. If you want to throw them out, why? What makes you think your ideas are going to be better than these characters who have stood up over time? And this is, of course, the whole problem with politically correct versions of stories as well. Trying to make a character or a stock character from the past speak your words. No, you need to understand what they are. What is the symbolism of Joker? If you have anything other than the Joker is an agent, a lord, a demon of chaos, a very intelligent one. This is what Heath Ledger got so right. The Joker is completely the most intelligent person in the room.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
And completely evil. Joaquin Phoenix took him to that point. But then, I think based on the reactions to the first movie, they decided, Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, they decided, let's deconstruct him. It's not a good idea. So, what are some of your favorite stock characters? Mine, I love Punch. I think Punch is the most psychotic character in all of fiction. Stagger Lee, however, gives him a close second in the blues and African-American category. I think that Pulcinella, all the Commedia dell'arte characters are there for a reason. But I think Alice in Wonderland is a great character. If you're going to make an Alice in Wonderland, you have to use certain things. Norman Bates in Psycho. One could go on. What are some of your favorite stock characters? The characters that always have to be within a certain sphere to be considered to be that character. Let me know. Write it down below. And thank you for watching. And by the way, I started this channel back in 2019 to help me make money. I make less money on the channel now than I did in 2020. A lot less. What happened? Has my content slipped? Oh, maybe I should blame it all on the algorithms. But if you'd like to help out, there is a link down below for PayPal or GoFundMe. I could use the help. Trust me, the situation is tight for me now these days. But more importantly, it may be tight for you too. I'm glad you're watching. Why don't you go ahead and hit the like thing, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Do everything you can. Share these videos if you think they're interesting to help the blind idiot gods of the algorithms find whatever it is I'm doing. But thank you all for being there. And from Georgia, where we say droibit, meaning basically I'm going to see you pretty soon. You can depend on it. This is Bern in Tbilisi, Georgia. We will meet again soon, I hope. Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
A people without history is not redeemed from time. For history is a pattern of timeless moments.